Greetings YouTube, welcome back to the Methernet channel. I am Marcus, bringing you another video for Cardfight Vanguard Overdress. In this video, we will be going through the card supports that Zorgar actually received for DBT03. Now, Zorgar, while it did not receive its 4th attack support in this booster set, but it actually does receive another playstyle other than basically milling your deck to death and hopefully your opponent could not guard your stuff and you win. Let's take a look. First off, we have Carrion Handler, active Rearguard Circle, cost Blast 1 and bind this unit. Choose an order card from your drop and put it into your hand. Now, of course, this unit does helps you with the Alchemagic consistency because you're able to exchange himself in order to get an order card back to your hand so that you are able to use it. Or you can basically get a Blitz order back to your hand because it only says an order card and Blitz order is an order card. And one more thing is that if you did Alchemagic the last turn and you do not have any order card for your next turn, you're able to use this card skill and basically guarantee you that Alchemagic skill activation. Also, this unit does contributes to the bind zone count, which we will talk about later down the video because this bind cost is really important for the new playstyle for Zorgar. Next up, we have the Blitz Order Darkness Hiding. You need to pay 1 counterblast as well as put 4 order cards from your bind zone into your drop. If you do that, you're able to choose one of your units that is being attacked by a rearguard, and of course that unit will plus 20k until the end of that battle. Now, this is probably the hardest to achieve cost at the moment because this requires you to bind your order zone in your drop zone like crazy, which at the moment Zorgar does not really have that kind of speed to bind a lot of order cards from your drop zone or hand or any other thing other than being Alchemagic with being once per turn. It's going to be the hardest requirement to achieve. This card will be significantly better if it is not specified to order cards from your bind zone. Of course, if you manage to bind 4 order cards from your bind zone, this card could potentially be a main counter against Leonard because 20k shield from a rearguard attack, hey, it's good, but of course this is provided Leonard is really small because I don't think Leonard will be 20k to 30k power. So other than that, this card is quite good, but at the same time it does got held back by its heavy cost, which is quite hard to achieve. Next up, we have Pulverizing Fault, continuous rearguard circle. This unit gets 5k power for each order card in your bind zone, active on your opponent's turn 2. Now, of course, this is probably going to be your beefy attacker once there are a lot of order cards in the bind zone. He could potentially be minimum at 15k the first time you go into Zorgar because you're able to start Alchemagic and bind 1 order card to your bind zone. Of course, there are other cards that actually bind order cards to the bind zone, which will of course we will be talking about later. And this, of course, this unit is probably going to be your new main attacker. And something to note here is that if you do have a lot of order cards in your bind zone, this card can be quite hard to get rid of unless of course he got retired, because the more order cards you have in your bind zone, the more power he's going to be, and of course this power gain is also active on your opponent's turn 2. Overall, this card is quite good, but it does requires some resources to set up before he gets really powerful. Next up, we have Decay Hollow Dragon. Auto, when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, choose a normal order card from your drop and you may play it without playing its cost. This play counts for the number of plays too. So basically this card is a very late game right target where you're basically out of resources. Without any Alchemagic skill from this card, it does really hurts a little bit, but hey, if you're really out of resources without that Alchemagic, it's still fine, I would say. At this point, I don't really recommend you running this card in any shape or form in any deck because he's not really good. But of course, he does has his usage. Next, we have a normal order card, Death Inviting Black Magic. This counterblast cost can be reduced for every card in your bind zone. You will need to pay 4 counterblast to play this card, and this is basically Pot of Greed. This, of course, is a very heavy cost because counterblast 4 if you want to play this card on the 3rd turn when you wear your Alchemagic. And of course, the cost can only be reduced when this card is a part of Alchemagic skill. If you don't play Alchemagic with this card, you're not able to reduce the cost, which is concerning at some point. However, unlike some of other cards which will need you to specify what type of card is in the bind zone, this card does not really matter what card is in the bind zone. As long as you have cards in your bind zone, it does reduce 1 counterblast for each card in your bind zone, which is still really good. So far, this card really good, but it can be quite awkward in some certain scenarios. Next up, we have Desiring Outtro. Active rearguard circle once per turn. If you played an order this turn, discard an order card from your hand and draw a card. Now, this card does helps with exchanging some of your excessive order cards in your hand. For example, if you do keep drawing into order cards into your hand, this card can basically helps you to potentially draw into some other key cards that you might want at that moment. And also, you are able to discard any blitz order that you have in your hand, because as we all know, order cards can only activate once per turn. So if you have like 2 blitz order in your hand, you might as well just discard it and draw into some other better cards for either defensively or offensively. And do keep in mind is that you're only able to use Outtro skill after you have played an order. So it does not matter if it's Alchemagic or just a normal order play. You're able to discard an order card from your hand and draw a card, which is quite nice. And of course, any skill that basically helps you change your hand is always appreciated, because this increases the chance of you getting the key pieces that you need, be it a attacker, personal right target, or possibly another better order card. Next, of course, we have the triple R for the set, which is Cloacked Shadow. And let me tell you, this card changes everything for Zorga. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard from hand, search your deck for up to 1 order card and reveal it. And if your drop does not have a card with the same card name as that card, discard the reveal card, shuffle your deck. Auto rearguard circle. When you play an order, cost Soul Blast 1 and this unit gets 5k power until the end of turn. If during Alchemagic, choose one of your auto rearguard and you may return it to your hand. This card is potentially going to be the stapler card no matter which Zorga playstyle that you are playing. This card will definitely be your stapler card. This card does helps with setting up your drop zone for Alchemagic, because as soon as it's placed on the rearguard circle, you're able to search any order card from your deck and discard it to the drop zone. Of course, you can basically refer to whatever is in your hand or whatever is in your drop zone, and you could basically just discard 1 order card that you need and then you Alchemagic after that. And also, this card is able to recycle some of your on play skill with his second skill, because after you play an order, you're able to Soul Blast 1. Of course, he gets 5k power and return one of your other rearguards to your hand. The best example that I can give you is basically, of course, the stapler card from BT01 until now, Adamantis. You're able to return Adamantis to hand, and basically you could just call Adamantis out to give another 5k to any other unit. Really great. This card does a lot for Zorga. Honestly, I'm really impressed by how Bushiroad is handling all this card support skill. Now, of course, I'm gonna talk about the playstyles that you're able to play for Zorga. With the introductions to DBT03, we actually got a new playstyle for Zorga. Of course, one of those 2 playstyles is Milling Acceleration, which is what Zorga is playing up until now. And then, of course, with DBT03, we actually got another playstyle, which is Binding Utilization, which means that you would want to utilize the bind zone to unlock certain skills, which I did talk about when I go through their support cards. For Milling Acceleration, of course, this playstyle does focus on milling the deck as fast as possible for one very devastating turn. You mill the deck as fast as possible by using the grade 1 that we have for DBT02. Of course, the milling is still optional because it does says you may. It depends on whatever situation you're in. You can choose to mill the top 5 of your deck, which is really good. And the reason why you would want to mill your deck as fast as possible is to make Nectar of Sensationalism as powerful as possible, because for every 5 cards in your drop zone, one of your units is able to get the 5k power. And if your drop zone is 15 or more, you're able to give that rearguard +1 critical. Nectar of Sensationalism will usually want to target the Fleet Swallower, which is the zombie shark here, because the zombie shark does have kind of a guard restrict for your opponent so that you're not able to easily PG the attack that Fleet Swallower is attacked. But then if you're playing this in a Zorga deck, it means that only one of your attack is gonna have that +1 critical. If you are playing Iron Anchor Resentment Dragon, which is this card, you're able to go double Nectar of Sensationalism to 2 Fleet Swallower, which will make 2 attacks with 2 critical as well as the guard restrict. It's really devastating as well as really disgusting. Usually this playstyle will deck out by turn 5 because you're milling so much. This playstyle could be summed up as a YOLO playstyle. It's either your opponent will die to your overwhelming milling of your deck, or basically you die to you milling yourself out. The next playstyle I did mention is Binding Utilization. Binding Utilization, which will utilize the cards in your bind zone as a form of resources to unlock skill. For example, the Pulverizing Fault, which will gain 5k power for each of your order card in your bind zone, as well as the Blitz Order, which will need 4 order cards in your bind zone in order to give 20k power to one of your units. This playstyle does have a relatively high Alchemagic consistency while also building up the bind zone. For example, you have cards like this Butcher over here, basically counterblast one to bind himself to get a order card from your drop zone to your hand. But there is also some order cards that actually bind itself. For example, this normal order card. By counterblasting one as well as put himself to the bind zone, you are able to choose 2 order cards from your drop zone and put it into your hand while also contributing to your bind zone count, which will therefore unlock Pulverizing Fault as well as your Darkness Hiding Blitz Order. And of course, there is also Fairy of Tragic Love, which will basically bind herself in order to get a order card from your bind zone to your hand, which will therefore increase the consistency of Alchemagic. But of course, this card will requires you to have a order card already bind in the bind zone. This playstyle does requires you to have a little bit of a setup, but the consistency is really great in this deck. There is also a card that basically powers up depending on whatever cards is in your bind zone, and that card being Sleeve Tugging Bell. When she's placed on the rearguard circle, you're able to put whatever card is in your bind zone to your drop zone, and for each card you put from your bind zone to your drop zone, she's able to get 5k power. So the more cards in your bind zone you have, this card basically gets more power out of it. As you can see, this is basically treating your bind zone as another form of resources to unlock skill, which is a interesting playstyle in a sense. But there is of course the issue where you would need to first build up your bind zone as a resource first before you are able to get the engine rolling. Which brings me to what might possibly be the stapler card for this playstyle, which is Coffin Shooter. Coffin Shooter might be the heart and soul for this build because you're able to Soul Blast one and bind an order card from your drop zone and basically call himself out from the drop zone, which of course, as we have noticed, he binds an order card from your drop zone. So you're able to swarm your opponent by binding order cards in the drop zone while also building up your resources for your late game usage, which I am really impressed by how the support cards kind of clicks together. And that is all for this video. Do let me know down in the comment section on what do you think of Zorga. Do like and subscribe if you like this video, and do ring the bell notification icon so that you don't miss a video I upload. With that being said, I'll see you all on the field.